You are listening to The Hero's Journey. I'm Jeff Garvin.
I'm Dan Zarzana.
Let the journey begin.
Welcome to the show, Jeff.
Welcome to the show, Dan. Why? Why are you awkwardly pausing right now?
I'm afraid that you're going to do another terrible accent.
Okay, well, I'm not.
I don't trust you.
That's fair.
Right?
That's pretty fair.
So, hey, we want to welcome our two new patrons, Warren Baker and Tasha Finken.
In addition to giving us his money, Warren has already pitched in some cool ideas for future episodes.
And Tasha is not only our newest patron, but she's the best goddamn barkeep this side of the Mississippi.
Are we talking like that now? Is that...
I just want to really play Red Dead Redemption 2.
And let's not forget our demigod-level patron, Dean Ethington.
Dean Ethington.
Who, Dan, I'm not sure if you're aware, designed our logo.
Thanks, Dean.
We are now 26% of the way to our $200 a month goal, at which point our patrons will be covering all the hard costs for this podcast.
Awesome.
We are currently cooking up ideas for what to give our patrons when we hit that level. What great idea do you have? Tweet us at Heroes Podcast, hit us up on Facebook, or send us a message on our Patreon page.
And if you would like to gain access to exclusive audio and video content, including extra tidbits and peeks behind the scenes, and the right to vote on subject of future episodes, go to patreon.com/heroesjourney to learn more.
This is episode 17, Princess Bride.
The Princess Bride.
The Princess and the Bride.
Stop. Just stop.
The Princess, the Bride. The Princess Bride hit theaters on September 25, 1987 from 20th Century Fox.
That was long before you were born.
32 years before that company was eaten by a 21st century mouse.
Oh. How do you feel about that merger of two entertainment giants?
I think on the one hand, Disney's going to do a great job making all the 20th Century Fox franchises more easily readily available.
Redditable.
More readily available, and merging some of the Marvel characters and stuff that Fox had.
Well, and Fox had the original Star Wars trilogy.
Maybe we'll get the original trilogy.
The unspecial edition versions.
There's so much demand for that. Disney has to do it.
I would think so.
But I also think it's bad for creativity and artists to consolidate the money behind putting stories out. I just think that's eventually becomes bad. So I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah. The Princess Bride was written by William Goldman based on his novel of the same name and was directed by Rob Reiner.
How is this the first Rob Reiner movie we've ever done?
I don't know. Spinal Tap.
Right? Stand By Me.
Yeah.
North. I mean, who doesn't love North?
North?
Starring Elijah Wood. No one ever saw that movie.
The film starred Cary Elwes, Robin Wright, Mandy Patinkin, Christopher Guest, Andre the Jet. Look, it's everybody.
You're leaving out Fred Savage on purpose because you don't want me to do another one of my back when I was an actor stories.
I'm not saying that.
Yeah. Over its time, The Princess Bride has grossed only $32 million against its $16 million budget. That really surprised me.
It was a box office bomb, yeah. But it has since enjoyed cult film status.
Absolutely. I mean,
after VCRs.
What is wrong with us today? This is awesome. I hope you're enjoying, and we're totally sober. And
there's been a cup of coffee consumed.
It's 8:45 a.m.
and half a glass of water. That is it.
Maybe we should start drinking. Where's the Baileys?
The film was nominated for only one Oscar for Willie DeVille's song "Storybook Love," which Jeff tells me that the original song category was weak as that year because that is an horrendous song.
Your love is like a storybook story. As opposed to those other kinds of stories, which are not from...
I have had that song in my head for days.
Yeah.
I just, it grates me.
On the other hand, the score was written by Mark Knopfler of Dire Straits fame.
Yeah, I had no idea.
But enough production detail. It's time to draw your sword, hop on your white horse, and have fun storming the castle.
Act 1 begins with the world of Common Day. This is where we see our main character in their status quo, normal life. Right off the bat, I had a hard time.
Yeah, me too. I was surprised.
Sorry, you were surprised?
I expected this to fall so neatly into the hero's journey from page 1.
Yeah.
Because it's a fairy tale. And I
Right.
found myself going, oh God, I should have watched this a week before. Like
Instinctively, I was just drawn to Wesley as hero.
No. The title is The Princess Bride. So
I knew you were gonna do this.
As we've established,
In episode 4, the
Princess
American
Bride,
president.
the title character always.
I then also saw a journey taken by the grandson, played by Fred Savage.
I'm so glad you brought up Fred.
What, do you have a story? Do you have a story about him?
Maybe when we're drinking.
Do you have 6 degrees to Fred Savage?
I have 1 degree.
You have 1 degree, I know.
Anyway, you were saying Fred Savage is the hero.
So, no. I picked out moments of the journey for grandson.
Huh, I can see that.
as well.
I thought Old Rose was really the protagonist of this film. And I thought
Cue penny whistle.
at some point, everything is Titanic.
Okay, I'm not
When are we going to do Titanic?
We're not now.
Clearly.
So, grandson, channeling Ferris Bueller and faking illness so that he can stay home from school and play video games, lounges in his bed in his suburban Chicago home during Christmas time. After seeing the view outside his bedroom window, I was imagining Clark Griswold and his family a few doors down, setting up their Christmas lights on their house because they also live in suburban Chicago. Also, Neil Page from Planes, Trades, and Automobiles lives in suburban Chicago.
I pictured John Candy flipping a giant pancake with a snow shuffle as seen in Uncle Buck, which I think also takes place in suburban Chicago.
I'm gonna guess that maybe John Hughes lived in Chicago.
I don't know.
Did he grow up in Chicago? Because he wrote Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Right.
He wrote
Uncle Buck.
a Christmas Vacation.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
But he didn't write
Or did he direct?
The Princess Bride.
Anyway, no, he had nothing to do with The Princess Bride. But that's the first time also. I've seen this movie dozens of times over the years. And this is the first time I've ever noticed that it was Christmas time.
With a Santa Claus in the background and all that stuff.
Yeah, and there's Christmas lights hanging from the house across the street that you can see outside his grandson's bedroom
Is
window.
this, because I haven't watched this movie on like a high-def giant TV before, because I think I've watched it on VHS years
be.
past, but like now on a
Where
giant TV, you can see,
Yeah.
Peter Falk's nose hairs twitching. Thank you, high def.
So anyway, so that's grandson's world of Common Day. But then if we're talking about the fairy tale itself, the story within the story, then it's the first lines of the book that Grandpa is so in love with, talking about Buttercup and Wesley living on the farm.
I would agree with that.
That is such a charming sequence. It introduces the two main characters of the fairy tale and their mutual attraction for each other, all in the span of a couple of minutes. There are entire movies, I believe they're called rom-coms, that waste their time on what this movie gets out of the way in 180 seconds.
Yeah. Well, I think part of that is in a fairy tale, you can truncate things. The beginning is kind of like that movie Up, where you get a lot in a very short period of time and you do get emotionally connected. Part of that, I think, is Robin Wright is amazing in this role. Her eyes
Really?
and her
Yes,
chin say
absolutely.
so much.
Her chin?
Her chin, yeah, the way she holds her chin, like she's proud. She
I
holds
thought
her
you
chin
were
up, and then
Yeah. No, I thought you were being goofy.
Oh, well, I'm always goofy. I will say though, Cary Elwes' performance in the beginning of this movie is kind of creepy to me.
Yes.
He's almost like sociopathically non-expressive.
Right. The only thing that moves is his mouth.
Yeah.
Everything else is completely stiff.
At one point, I wondered if she said, "So, are we in love? Or are you gonna like kill me in the farmhouse? Beat me with that pitcher that you just fetched me?"
Anyway, so that's what I saw was the world of Common Day.
Okay, interesting. I included a little bit more, but
Really?
Yeah. I sort of took that whole beginning where they're in love. He has no money for marriage. He sets off to seek his fortune across the sea, all as World of Common Day.
Huh. All right. I thought him leaving to seek his fortune across the sea so that he could afford to wed Buttercup as Wesley's call to adventure.
Let's move forth to Call to Adventure.
Adventure.
No.
Oh.
Call to Adventure. The hero is presented with a challenge which renders him unable to continue living in the comfort of the ordinary world. 5 years later, Buttercup is engaged to Prince Humperdinck.
Humperdinck.
Of Florin. Humperdinck announces that their wedding will take place on the night of the kingdom's 500th anniversary. But it's a ruse, because Humperdinck's real plan is to have Buttercup killed and then frame warriors of Gilder for her murder in order to justify going to war. And to that end, he hires 3 mercenaries, the Sicilian mastermind Vizzini, the giant Fezzik, and the swordsman Inigo Montoya. And they kidnap Buttercup and put her on their ship and make sail for Gilder. That incident is what inspires Wesley to come back for Buttercup like he promised. That is the beginning of his adventure. So I call that the call to adventure.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I picked that out as well. But what stopped me was, like you just said a few minutes ago, that in a fairy tale you can afford to truncate parts of the story.
Mm-hmm.
How does Wesley know that Buttercup has been kidnapped and is on it? He's right behind Vizzini's ship in his own. So I was like, that's a stretch that he knows. But anyway, now that I'm saying it, I'm not sure why that made me stop considering that scene to be the call to adventure. Anyway, I've got nothing else to say.
And scene.
So if I'm including bits of the grandson's story, his call to adventure is Grandpa coming over and saying, I've got a special gift for you, and it's a book, and I'm going to read it to you.
Do you remember what the name of that baseball game was for Atari 2600 or NES or whatever that was before NES? What was that? Was it just baseball?
It might have just been called baseball. Yeah, I don't know. I meant to look it up, darn it, and I totally forgot. I love the sound effects in that.
Yeah. 8-bit glory.
All right, so refusal of the call. Confronted with fear of the unknown, our hero refuses the call to adventure. Sometimes this energy is expressed from within the hero, and sometimes from without. Grandson is not at all interested in a book, in having a book read to him. That is his refusal. I thought that from my perspective of the adventure being Wesley going to seek his fortune across the sea so that he can have money to come home and marry Buttercup, his ship being attacked by the Dread Pirate Roberts waylays him, and, well, we think that Wesley is dead.
Murdered by pirates is good.
Oh, so that's like a refusal from without.
So that's a refusal from without.
I'll buy that. That's good. I like both of those things.
And then on top of that is Prince Humperdinck publicly announcing that he's going to marry Buttercup. Had Wesley been alive and around, that would have prevented him from marrying her as well.
Okay.
It's a little weak, that one, but that's where I was headed with this.
I'm with you.
You can't marry Buttercup because I'm the prince and I'm going to do it.
I guess if we go with what I call the call to adventure, which is the kidnapping of Buttercup, that doesn't make a lot of sense since the adventure is returned. But I get it. Yeah, I struggled.
I'm talking about my own analysis, not yours.
I struggled with refusal of the call too.
So what did you have?
At one point, I wrote down like Buttercup jumps ship. I don't even know what that means. That would be refusing Vizzini's call to adventure, I guess, which is to kidnap her. Moving on to meeting with the mentor, the hero receives counsel on how to operate in the special world. Man, I had a tough time with this one.
Yeah.
Despite my insistence that the title character must be the hero in every story, I definitely have Wesley as the hero. Since this is a rescue the princess story, I didn't see him get much mentoring during the story. I saw a little bit of the dreaded mentor energy from Wesley himself as he teaches Buttercup what a cruel world it is and how to survive the fire swamp, etc., etc.
Yeah.
That's the best I could come up with.
In my analysis, I've got, of course, the Dread Pirate Roberts taking Wesley under his wing, but you don't see it on camera. That's a story
that's great.
That Wesley tells Buttercup later.
Yeah.
And revealing the truth about the Dread Pirate Roberts, that, the real Dread Pirate Roberts has been retired for 15 years.
No, that's great. I'm aboard.
And that, before Wesley was just poor farm boy when he left, and then now he's educated and he's a brilliant sword fighter.
Yeah.
Kind of like in Braveheart, where Uncle Argyle comes and takes William Wallace away and turns him into the man he is off camera.
That shall have to be remedied.
That's what happens here.
God, I got an accent in. Whew. I was worried that there was going to be.
So let's move into crossing the first threshold. This is where the hero must pass a barrier to enter the special world. This crossing represents the hero's commitment to taking on the adventure. From Grandson's story, I saw the eel scene. Grandpa stops reading as the eel is charging Buttercup.
She doesn't get eaten by the eels at this time.
What?
The eel doesn't get her. I'm explaining to you because you look nervous.
I wasn't nervous. Well, maybe I was a little bit concerned, but that's not the same thing.
Because we can stop now if you want.
No, you could read a little bit more if you want.
I saw that as him being afraid that Grandpa was going to stop reading the book. So, no, I'm good. Go ahead, keep reading. That's the first time where he said, okay, let's hear this story.
Yeah, he's engaged in the adventure now.
Engaged. That is the word I was looking for. Yes, thank you.
So I'm watching this with my kids this time for the first time, and both my kids were like up on the couch at this point. My daughter was like clutching
tucked under them.
clutching her shirt, like very nervous if the eels were going to eat Buttercup.
That's adorable. They were having the exact same reaction.
Yeah, it's really cool to watch movies with kids because they have no inhibitions about showing how they're feeling about the story, and they're so not cynical about the twists and turns. They are living in the moment with that story. The eels are coming.
Yeah.
And I love Peter Falk's performance when he goes back into the story. He's like, all right, the eels, they're coming.
All right. Let's see. She was in the water. The eel was coming after her. She was frightened. The eel started to charge her, and then...
I saw the moment of Buttercup jumping into the eel-infested waters to escape her captors as a potential crossing of the first threshold. This is her taking action, not very well-advised action, jumping into
Yeah, she's resisting.
man-eating eels, but...
Yeah, I
and
guess
then
as
Wesley pursuing Buttercup's captors
totally.
as crossing the first threshold, at least from my perspective, although I'm behind you in my analysis.
No, that's what I had. In his ship, Wesley pursues them to Gilder. I didn't see
okay.
I didn't see a specific moment, but I saw that as him saying, "Yep, I'm in. I'm chasing you now."
Right. Okay. That is the end of Act 1.
Woot woot. Let's take a break, and we'll come back with Act 2.
All right, coffees and waters replenished.
Yes, replenished.
Replenished. There's no T in the word replenished.
There is now. Make a note of it.
So, since we last recorded, tell us and the audience what you, Jeff Garvin,
Why are you being so melodramatic
host
about this?
of the hero's journey
Co-host. I'm the co-host. I do not do this.
podcast,
Ladies and gentlemen, Christopher Walken.
audio program.
What is the matter with you?
What have you been reading? Watching, playing, anything? Tell
have,
us interesting things. Get off your phone.
I'm looking at my phone
Are you playing
because
Candy Crush?
Yes.
We're doing the podcast.
no, I'm on my phone because
Does anybody still play Candy Crush?
Oh my god.
Go ahead.
I have read quite a bit to make up for the fact that all I did for the last fiscal quarter of 2018 was listen to Critical Role. I've taken a break from Critical Role.
Okay.
I have finished, since our last recording, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 books.
Wow.
Booyah. The first book I read was Love and Other Curses by Michael Thomas Ford. I received an advanced reader copy in order to do a blurb, which is when one author says nice things about another book so they can put it on the back cover and people go, oh, so-and-so liked this book. Maybe I'll like it too. I missed the deadline to actually be on the book, but hopefully they'll use it in tweets and stuff. It's about a gay teenager who lives in a vacation resort town. And so the summer people come and he meets a transgender boy, and it's kind of a love triangle where he falls in love with the trans boy is in love with a girl, and it deals with identity in an incredible way. So the main character is also a budding drag performer. So you've got like gay teens, drag identity, and transgender all in one book, and it's really well done, and the dialogue is awesome, and it's funny and touching and moving and deals with all these things that certainly a YA book never would have dealt with when you and I were teenagers. and it's really interesting, and I highly recommend it to our teen listeners. I read a thriller by Jonathan Kellerman called When the Bough Breaks from 1985, I want to say, and it was charmingly sexist, I guess I would say, and I DNF'd it. This is the second book I've DNF'd in 3 years.
Wow.
I don't think it was because it was a bad story. It's a psychologist detective. I've been looking for novels with detectives that aren't cops or FBI agents. And so I just couldn't handle the anachronisms in it. It was every woman was, just there for sexual exploit or as a secretary, and I just couldn't do it. I finished Dark Sacred Night, the Renee Ballard, Harry Bosch meet in this latest Michael Connelly novel. It's my favorite Michael Connelly book yet. It's my favorite Bosch, and it's even better than The Late Show for Renee Ballard, and the two of them get together, and it's just awesome. Highly recommend it.
Okay, wait. You just got finished saying you DNF the first book because the women are only there to be sexual exploits.
Right.
But you loved Bosch and Ballard because they get together.
No. They don't have sex. They get together as detectives.
Oh.
It's not a romantic relationship at all.
They partner up.
Sorry, they partner
you said
up.
They get together, so I...
Yeah, the two characters' stories intertwine. Oh my God. Yeah, it's really great to see a young detective and I need a young priest and an old priest. Wow, this went really off the rails. Anyway, Dark Sacred Night is the latest Michael Connelly, Bosch and Ballard together. I love it. I read Free Will by Sam Harris. I've been wanting to read a Sam Harris book.
You are a big Sam Harris fan.
I am. And Free Will, his take on free will is so fascinating. And I've listened to him talk about it on his podcast, and I've read blog posts about it, and I could never really wrap my mind around what he was saying about free will. So I got the book. It's only 96 pages long. And I really got in the
pamphlet.
I really got in the first 10 pages why I don't read philosophy. It hurt my brain. But it's so well done, and it's one of those books where you read it and you go, wow, how could I possibly argue against this? It's so well presented. I highly recommend it.
Okay.
And then I reread The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, which is one of my favorite mystery thrillers of all time. And then
how many times have you read The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo?
Well, first of all, I've listened to the audiobook read by Simon Vance because he's awesome, but I probably 3 or 4 times. It's not quite Bag of Bones for me, but it's up there.
Yeah.
And I think I love the mystery of it. I love the thriller of it, but also there's just something exotic about it taking place in Sweden. And there are long passages in these books where it's like, he drank his coffee and made himself 2 open-faced cheese and fish sandwiches, then went to IKEA and a list of the things he bought at IKEA. And I don't know why I enjoy that, but give me more detail, I'm in. And then finally, I reread the first Harry Bosch novel, The Black Echo.
Oh, wait, reread?
I reread it, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that you had read that one.
Yes, I've read The Black Echo.
Oh, okay.
And I reread it to get the origin. I've been trying to read first in a series books to get an idea because I'm working on potentially the first in a series, so I'm getting the feel for those things. So that a long-winded way, that is what I have been reading. Wow. I haven't been doing a lot of watching.
Nicely done. Well, who's got time when you're reading
6 books
that much? Yeah. And playing, have you had time for Pillars of Eternity? Or?
No, I sat down to play Pillars of Eternity, and I thought I got to get back on the book bandwagon. So I've been really trying to read at every possible moment. Oh, I guess the other thing that has aided my reading is I deleted Facebook and Twitter from my phone.
Wow.
The new iOS has a thing called Screen Time, and it tells you how much you're on your phone, and you can set time limits. And it was eating up more than an hour of my day looking at social media. And I found it aggravated me, and it was affecting my mental health. So I deleted those 2 apps, and now I'm checking into Twitter and Facebook maybe once or twice a day. And as I scroll, I go, none of this is what I want.
Yeah,
there's so little satisfaction and value add, except to see that number on your notifications. Ooh, 10 people have liked or retweeted, and I'm like, I should be writing a book during that time. I should not be. Scrabbling for scraps and notifications.
That's a lost hour of productivity.
Yeah, so I've been reading books during those cracks in my schedule. Great. And reading the local newspaper and doing stuff like that.
Newspaper?
Yeah, The Champion.
Really?
Yeah. like not cover to cover, but
Is that one you subscribe to, or do you ride your bike down to the local coffee shop? And
it gets delivered free every Sunday. Although I read deep on their website, and I just subscribed at the rate of $15 a year, and now I will receive the Sunday LA Times every Sunday as part of that deal for $15 a year, which is insane. But I haven't gotten it yet, so I got to call them. How about you?
I don't get a newspaper.
I meant, what have you been reading, watching, playing?
Since we're talking about Bosch, all the time.
Bosch.
I finished watching season 4 of Bosch. Season 5 starts in just a few days here, I think. We are recording this March 31st, so mid-April. Okay, so that, I also read The Last Coyote, which is the 4th book in the Bosch novel series. In that one, Bosch is on an involuntary stress leave after assaulting his commanding officer, and so he starts digging into an old unsolved case, the 1961 murder of a Hollywood prostitute named Marjorie Lowe, his mother.
Which they exploited the plot line for season 2?
Yeah. I also read a book called Lab Girl by Hope Yaron. The author discusses her journey as a scientist and the challenges that she faces, such as sexism and mental health issues. She kind of glosses over the mental health issues, though. They're mentioned. She has a couple of breakdown moments, but there isn't a whole lot of discussion about really what she's doing to manage whatever it was that was happening to her. She just says, and this happened, and then we move on. It was weird. I was a little disappointed there. I kind of wanted to hear more about that.
You feel like maybe the editor was pulling back on it because it was a diversion from the main thrust of the book, maybe?
No. No, I don't think so. I think the material just wasn't there. And then I also read, I needed some happy time.
Yeah.
I had a really, really rough time this last month, and I just needed something that I knew I enjoyed and made me smile, and so I listened to Ready Player One again. This is the 5th time that I've...
That's your bag of bones, baby.
I've read that book.
That's your bag of bones.
It is my bag of bones. In terms of playing, I started Rise of the Tomb Raider, which came out in 2015. Really enjoying it.
Is that the sequel to the reboot of Tomb Raider?
It is the second of Crystal Dynamics' reboot.
I got to play that
series.
I love that game.
It is really fun. What I like about it is that it is a Tomb Raider game, but they do not sexualize Lara Croft the way the originals
right.
did.
Yeah.
She's a normally proportioned human.
Yeah, she's a female scientist, badass superhero.
Great, like all of them are.
Did you watch the Between the Sheets with Marisha Ray? She talks about being inspired by Tomb Raider and finally having a video game where there was a woman protagonist.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, wow, it never occurred to me that would be something that's like, finally, right? It totally makes sense.
Yeah, and I've heard that this is a 30-year-old game, so pardon me for spoiling Metroid if you don't know that Samus is a woman.
Bum, bum, bum.
That's not revealed until the very last shot. You beat the game and she takes her helmet off and then she's got flowing long hair and everyone's like, oh, it's a woman. And that moment was, I have heard from people like Marisha Ray who have said that was a turning point for them too. And that's pretty much it. All right, we need to get back into this. Shall we exchange our deal or ordeal cards now?
Yes.
Here you go. But do not read it.
Oh, do not read?
Do not read it yet. We're not there.
What you hold but cannot read is a deal or ordeal card. Act 2 begins with tests, allies, and enemies, what Joseph Campbell and Dan Zarzana like to refer to as the road of trials. Now in the special world, our hero makes allies, meets enemies, and must pass a series of tests to prove his worthiness. I like to do this by listing the allies and enemies, even if it's a bit out of order. Almost everybody is a shapeshifter in this story. Fezzik and Inigo start out as mercenaries hired by the bad guys, but then they shapeshift into allies by the end of Act 2. Even Wesley pretends to be a bad guy. He's the Dread Pirate Roberts until he takes his mask off at a critical point. Prince Humperdinck and Count Rugen, a.k.a. the Six-Fingered Man, are enemies, but they're both pretending to be good guys at the top. Vizzini is clearly an enemy because he's actually enjoying the plot to kill the princess. And Wallace Shawn's performance in this movie is just so great.
Yeah.
You know, in this movie, you've got such a broad spectrum of performances. You've got Wesley, who is the swashbuckling hero, but very underplayed, almost underplayed to an exaggerated extent. You've got Robin Wright playing very much a realistic damsel in distress character. She's not over the top, and she's not super subtle. She's right there in the middle. And then you've got, Billy Crystal doing his crazy Miracle Max. You've got the impressive clergyman. You've got all these very broad characters all fitting perfectly into this comedy. I think that's one of Rob Reiner's fortes, is mixing tone, and he does it impeccably here. So moving on to tests. I think these are very clearly defined. Wesley arrives at the Cliffs of Insanity, climbs the rope, and defeats the Spaniard, Inigo Montoya, at swordplay. Fantastic scene. Really defines their characters because Inigo, waits for him to get to the top.
Yes.
And gives him a rest. And then this whole time during their fight, they're having this great dialogue about swordplay and so the spry, I'm not left-handed.
Yeah.
I'm not left-handed. That whole scene is just, that's what you really enjoy about this movie.
Yeah, and they share a mutual respect.
So then the next test is Wesley must battle Fezzik, the giant, at hand-to-hand combat. Again, they have a great conversation as they're fighting.
Yeah.
Fezzik is this good-natured guy. I want you to feel you're doing well, right?
Right.
But he bests the giant. And finally, he confronts Vizzini, who has Buttercup at knife point, and they're having a picnic for some reason.
Yeah, why are there apples set out on the flat-topped rock?
I think it's to express that Vizzini is so arrogant that he just assumes that Man in Black has been defeated. So he's, having a nice bottle of wine and some cheese and fruit with Buttercup before he, kills her or something. Anyway, so he outwits Vizzini by poisoning both their glasses with iocane powder. And in possibly the best death scene in comedy history, where Vizzini says,
"Ha, you fool! You fell victim to one of the classic blunders. The most famous is never get involved in a land war in Asia, but only slightly less well known is this: never go in against a Sicilian when death is on the line."
That is a brilliant broad comic choice, and it works amazingly.
I wonder if that was Reiner or if that was Wallace Shawn.
I don't know.
A combination of both.
I read that Wallace Shawn was part of the cast list from right in the beginning. Like, they knew they wanted him.
I have something in our audio tidbits that will contradict what you just said.
Oh, excellent. So if you are a subscriber, a Patreon patron, you will hear Dan beat me down on mic. And if you are not yet a Patreon patron, go to patreon.com/heroesjourneypodcast. And you can subscribe for as low as $3 a month and hear those audio tidbits. Back to the analysis. Wesley tests Buttercup. He's been pretending to be the Dread Pirate Roberts, and he's mocking her pain to find out if she's really faithful. And I see a delayed crossing of the threshold here. Buttercup says, after he's confronted her and mocked her pain, "You can die for all I care," and pushes him down the hill. And as he's rolling and rolling down the hill, Wesley says,
"As you wish."
Revealing to Buttercup that he's not the Dread Pirate Roberts, but he's her true love. His mask comes off, and they're together again.
That's exactly what I've got.
Woo!
All right, so let's move on to Approach to the Inmost Cave. This is where the hero reaches the edge of a dangerous place where the object of his quest is hidden. I saw the Fire Swamp as the approach to the Inmost Cave. This is the first time Wesley is truly challenged. Things go wrong, and he's very badly injured. And
yes.
In Vogler's book, the second edition, page 20, he says, "In mythology, the Inmost Cave may represent the land of the dead. The hero may have to descend into hell to rescue a loved one." I know he's talking about the Greek mythological story of Orpheus, who had to descend into Hades to rescue his deceased wife. But I thought of Wesley diving into the lightning sand to rescue Buttercup after she falls through it.
Yes.
As a representation of the hero descending into hell to rescue a loved one.
Yeah, I agree. That's the approach.
Did you take it further than that?
Nope.
Oh, wow. Okay. That brings us to the ordeal, so let's exchange ordeal cards. We may be on point here.
Dan wrote The Pit of Despair.
And that is what you wrote. Wesley is tortured in the pit of despair. That is what I thought the ordeal is. So we both win?
Yes, we both win. We're going to have to do some kind of a tiebreaker. Slap fight.
How are we going to...
Ow.
All right, so normally, or what we were planning on doing was, since listeners vote on the subject of the next episode,
Right.
in the month of May in the United States, we celebrate Memorial Day, Mother's Day, and for some reason, Cinco de Mayo. So the listeners were going to choose which of those three holidays was going to be the theme for the next episode. Whoever won Deal or Ordeal was going to get to pick the actual film or book that we cover, but we both won. So, yeah, we'll have to figure something out.
Maybe during our drinking break, we'll iron that out and flip a coin. We'll roll a d20. Ordeal. Our hero faces the ultimate test, often risking death to overcome his worst fear, sometimes actually appearing to die. As Wesley and Buttercup escape the dreaded fire swamp, they are intercepted by Humperdinck's hunting party. Buttercup agrees to go back to the castle and marry Humperdinck if they will promise to return Wesley to his ship. And Humperdinck lies and says, "I swear it will be done," and then tells Count Rugen to cast Wesley into the pit of despair. And in a great echoing piece of dialogue in Christopher Guest's wonderful sociopath voice, he says, "I swear it will be done." So he does cast him into the pit of despair, where he is tortured on the machine. And we get another great Christopher Guest line.
What did this do to you? Tell me. And remember, this is for posterity, so be honest.
It's such a great line. Now I'm going to dig into a little bit of Campbell. Buttercup has a nightmare, and in the nightmare, she has already married the prince, and he's introducing her to the people of the kingdom. And an old woman steps out of the crowd and boos her. And she says,
"Bow to her, bow to the queen of slime, the queen of filth, the queen of putrescence, boo!"
And she's pointing out that Buttercup had true love, but she threw it away to marry the prince. And the actress who plays this character, who is known in the script as the Ancient Booer, is Marjorie Mason. And she gives one of the most memorable performances of the whole movie. I love that part of the movie. But I bring this up because there's a segment of the hero's journey in Campbell's analysis called The Meeting with the Goddess, which is commonly represented as a mystical marriage of the hero with the queen goddess. Only in this case, it's not the princess marrying the hero or the goddess marrying the hero. She's marrying the villain, right? This is a grotesque parody of that segment. And because this is a romance story at its core, the princess marrying the villain is the worst possible outcome.
Yeah.
So this is ordeal. So later, Buttercup confronts Humperdinck and tells him she will never love him, that she'll die before she marries him. And after a series of deceptions, which I'm just kind of skipping over, it's all in this ordeal, but I'm going to skip over for convenience. Humperdinck is so infuriated that she still loves Wesley that he locks her in her room and then stomps down to the pit of despair, cranks the machine to 50, and kills Wesley. This is as dark as it gets. The hero has been killed. Wesley has been killed because of his love for Buttercup. So here we have atonement with the father. The hero must confront whoever holds the ultimate power in his or her life. This is medieval Europe, where women were more or less the property of men, and a man who wanted to marry a woman would have to ask the father's permission. Well, Humperdinck here is the symbolic father rescinding his permission for their love by killing Wesley. Now Humperdinck has changed his plan. Now he's going to marry Buttercup and have her murdered on their wedding night. That's the ordeal.
I saw a little bit of an ordeal for the grandson as well.
Tell us, Dan.
In the meta story. When Wesley dies, grandson interrupts the story.
Grandpa, wait. What did Fezzik mean he's dead? I mean, he didn't mean dead. Wesley's only faking, right?
You want me to read this or not?
Who gets Humperdinck?
I don't understand.
Who kills Prince Humperdinck? At the end, somebody's got to do it. Is it Inigo? Who?
Nobody. Nobody kills him. He lives.
You mean he wins? Jesus, Grandpa, what did you read me this thing for?
His entire expectation of what the story is and where it was going has been completely shattered.
Right.
And this is where he, as a listener of the story, then begins to rebuild his understanding of storytelling.
Totally agree.
So I guess that brings us to the ultimate boon or reward, seizing the sword. Having faced his worst fear, the hero seizes the object of his quest. I hate that this segment landed on me this episode because I never feel like I get it right. This episode, I think, is no different. Wesley's quest is to rescue Buttercup. He tasted that briefly during their trek through the fire swamp, but he doesn't rescue her for good until the very end of the film. So if anything, when Buttercup tells Prince Humperdinck that if he insists that she marry him, she's going to commit suicide, that confirmation of her true love for Wesley is a bit of a boon, although Wesley has no idea that this has happened. Simultaneously, Fezzik and Inigo, who were once enemies of Wesley, are now pooling their resources to rescue him, to resurrect him, by taking him to Miracle Max. Because of Wesley's skills, he gains 2 new allies.
Yes.
In Inigo and Fezzik.
Yeah.
At this point in the story, those are the only 2 elements that I saw representing any kind of reward for Wesley. I'm curious to know if you came up with something, because
I did. Totally agree that turning Inigo and Fezzik into allies is part of the boon. There's a part of reward called seeing through deception in Vogler's analysis, and Buttercup realizes that Humperdinck has been lying to her about returning Wesley to his ship. He realizes he's just a lying liar who lies. So that's part of the reward. And then there's another part of reward called elixir theft, which is the stealing of some magical substance or cure. And of course, here it's Miracle Max's chocolate-coated pill, which brings Wesley back to life so that the boys can have fun storming the castle.
Okay.
So that's the elixir theft portion.
That closes Act 2 and opens the beverage break.
I've often said that if I can go from coffee to booze in less than an hour, that's a good day. I have not yet finished my coffee, and I already have a bag with something alcoholic in it, so I am calling this a great day.
And you didn't even have to use your AK.
Whoa, a rare Ice Cube reference on the Hero's Journey podcast. All right, I'm now taking something cold.
Yeah.
Buttercup Chardonnay. Barrel fermented Buttercup Chardonnay from 2017. This is from Buttercup Vineyards.
Yeah.
Wow. In Parlier, California. How do you say that?
I have no idea. I know it's in California's Central Valley, east of Fresno.
Oh, I love it. We haven't had a wine on this show in a long time.
Yeah, I don't remember the last wine we had.
Godfather?
You don't like wine that much, so it's growing on you. You are beginning to explore the depths and breadths of wine.
And this is beautifully chilled. I can't wait to drink it.
So Buttercup Vineyards, I looked them up online, and this appears to be the only wine they make. I expected to see other offerings.
Rugen's Red.
This is it. I hope it's good.
Let's drink it.
We'll find out.
Oh, I'm getting the fancy Jamie Sloan glass, and Dan has a Los Angeles Dodgers glass. I don't know if you're aware, but Dan is quite a big Dodgers fan.
And as we record this, baseball season is 4 games old. Loving it. That's a pretty clear, very clear Chardonnay.
I don't know how it's supposed to look. It looks pale yellow.
Some Chardonnays are like a really deep gold.
It smells buttery and sweet.
So if it smells buttery, then that suggests that this has gone through secondary malolactic fermentation.
Gesundheit.
Smells like buttered popcorn a little bit.
Malolactic sounds like it means bad milk.
Oh, interesting. Could be. I mean, no, that's not what it means in this case, but malic acid is a compound associated with sour fruits like a green apple. And the process of malolactic fermentation converts the malic acid to lactic acid, which has a smoother, buttery flavor.
The same lactic acid that builds up in your muscles after a long run. Yeah. So if I bit into my calf after a half marathon, it would taste buttery?
You would taste buttery popcorn. So it's up to the winemaker whether or not they want to make their Chardonnay with malic acid, which would make it a lighter, more, I guess, a crisper wine, versus running their Chardonnay through a secondary fermentation, which would then soften that malic acid into the buttery Chardonnay that California is very well known for. And it's kind of a polarizing thing, too. There's some people who love California Chardonnays because of the buttery condition, and some people absolutely loathe it.
Dude, the science of wine with Dan Zarzana. I love it.
Let's taste this stuff.
Drink it.
Clinky, clinky.
Drinky.
I'm not getting buttery on
it's not as buttery
tongue. It smells butterier than it tastes. That's interesting.
It does taste kind of fruity. More fruity than the Chardonnays I remember.
I am getting a little bit of that green apple. Yeah, I don't know what to think about this one now.
Maybe we should drink more coffee and then more wine for contrast.
We could put coffee in the wine. No, don't do that. Although I read a book many months ago where the main character put a splash of red wine in her coffee in the morning to kick it up a notch.
My wife has a friend who puts Malbec in her Diet Coke. Right?
What?
Right? Doesn't that just sound awful?
I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Her comment was, "Don't judge me." I was like, all right, well, fair enough.
Sure. I mean, there's people who put sugar in white wine, and I don't understand that because I think a lot of white wines, they're already sweet enough.
I've learned not to judge people for their drinking habits.
Yeah, well, exactly.
The best wine is the wine.
Here it is, 10:59 a.m. on Sunday, and we're having a glass
But we're doing it for broadcasting. That's different. This is because of our work.
Right.
Important work.
Right.
Those of you who are under 21 who are listening, please fast forward past this section.
Right. Okay, so now that I've had a few sips, that initial green appleness that I was getting is gone.
I'm beginning to taste it.
Really?
Yeah.
That's weird. God, that's what's so great about this kind of stuff. It's
subjective.
It's all up to each individual person and what their experience is. That's why nobody is wrong for putting Malbec in their Diet Coke, I guess.
All right, well, we're going to finish our Buttercup Chardonnay. And by finish, I mean just keep drinking. And we'll be back with Act 3. Act 3 begins with the road back. Our hero is pursued by vengeful forces, which he disturbed when he sees the sword. But in this case, it's Westley, Inigo, and Fezzik who become the vengeful forces, bearing down on Humperdinck and Count Rugen, the six-fingered man. Westley wants his princess back, Inigo wants vengeance for his father, and Fezzik wants to finally, quote, do something right, unquote. It's the night of Humperdinck's wedding to Buttercup, and using an elaborate deceit in which they dress Fezzik in a Holocaust cloak, have him pretend to be the Dread Pirate Roberts, and then set him on fire. They scare away all the guards at the gate, steal the key, and enter the castle.
I agree. The only thing that I was thinking was that the wedding of Humperdinck and Buttercup was something of a vengeful force from the prince's perspective, because he is now continuing with his plan to kind of ruin Buttercup's life. And shortly end it after a period of time.
Interesting.
And then Count Rugen and his guards leaving the wedding to hunt for the intruders in the castle.
Yeah, I guess I can see, I mean, if you wanted to back up and be anachronistic about it, when Humperdinck stomps down into the pit of despair and kills Westley, that's a kind of vengeful force for Westley having pursued them and tried to free Buttercup. So I can see that as an extension of him being vengeful.
Okay, well that's a pretty short discussion on Road Back. Usually we have a lot to say and argue quite a bit about it.
I think part of the interesting tension here with The Princess Bride and the Hero's Journey is that this is an adventure movie, but at its heart, it's really a comedy.
Yeah.
Defined by it has a happy ending, and the beats are defined by what is entertaining and funny, not by what is dramatic and tension building. And so the ordeal in this movie is long because there's so much fodder for humor. You've got the Max and Valerie scene with Billy Crystal that we just kind of glossed over.
Yeah.
But that is a long, funny scene
Right.
with the turning point of the resurrection of Wesley. But it's really this great Carol Kane and Billy Crystal. You get them two, you got to go, all right, we're just going to take a while.
Yeah.
Please.
Just turn the camera on, go.
Right? You've got the albino in his hilarious scene where you think he has this, menacing, horrible voice.
Bits of despair. Yeah, exactly.
Right, and then he clears his throat. So the ordeal here is long, not because there's all this intense suffering, but because there's so much funny happening. And then the wedding is funny too. Anyway, I digress.
Yeah. This moves us into Resurrection, or the Master of Two Worlds, where the hero is purified by death, either in a literal or symbolic way, and returns to the land of the living a changed person. Inigo and Fezzik drag Wesley's corpse up to the wall overlooking the courtyard where the prince's guards are protecting the castle. They shove the miracle pill down his throat, and in a matter of seconds, Wesley wakes up, but he's pretty much paralyzed from the neck down.
Right.
Which, as you said, provides comedic moments. So this is a literal resurrection of the hero. After the infiltration of the castle, Inigo pursues Count Rugen and engages in a fight to the death. This is the second film in a row that we have covered where one of the main characters has a dagger thrown into his gut.
Yeah, you're right.
So after an apparent defeat, where Inigo is leaning up against the wall with this dagger in his stomach, and he's saying, "I'm sorry, Father, I tried." And then he rallies and engages Count Rugen in a sword fight and inflicts the exact same wounds on Count Rugen that Count Rugen has inflicted on Inigo, but Inigo is the one left standing. He has avenged his father.
I find Mandy Patinkin's performance in this movie so compelling. Of all the plot lines and all the story moments, this revenge is so satisfying.
Yes.
And I think it's performance-based. I think Cary Elwes was fine. He's a fine actor. But I never really emotionally connected with his love for Buttercup the way I connected with Inigo Montoya's. From the beginning of this movie, he's got a code, he's respectful, but he wants to kill the Six-Fingered Man. And this revenge scene is, to me, the most satisfying moment in the film when he says,
"Hello! My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die!"
No!
Offer me money.
Yes. Power to promise me that. All that I have and more. Please.
Offer me everything I ask for.
Anything you want.
I want my father back, you son of a bitch.
As this is happening, Wesley has somehow managed to find his way. He can't walk, but he has somehow managed to find his way to Buttercup's bedroom.
right.
And after the wedding, Buttercup has returned to her bedroom, has a dagger, and is about to plunge it into her chest when she hears Wesley from behind her.
There's a shortage of perfect breasts in this world. 'Twould be a pity to damage yours.
So this is a resurrection of the two of them as a pair. It's also a resurrection of Buttercup because she was about to kill herself.
Well done, sir.
And as Buttercup is showering Wesley with kisses,
Oh, Wesley, darling. Wesley, why won't you hold me?
Gently.
At a time like this, that's all you can think to say. Gently.
Gently.
Prince Humperdinck steps into the room and challenges Wesley to a battle to the death. Wesley counters with "to the pain" and rolls a 20 on his intimidation skill check. Prince Humperdinck drops his sword, obediently sits in the chair, allows himself to be tied up.
Yeah, a couple things I wanted to add. All this commotion interrupts Humperdinck and Buttercup's wedding. And this is the other, probably most quoted, most beloved part of the movie. Peter Cook plays the
fantastic.
impressive clergyman, right?
I love that.
Yeah, so he's giving the ceremony and he's saying, "Love, true love, will follow you forever."
Okay, we don't even need to cut in the movie clip there because that was spot on perfect.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The way they wrote that scene, Peter Cook puts in a W for an L and a W for an R. If you read the script, it's as many R's and L's as you could possibly have. Like, do you have the wings? That brings us to Return with the Elixir, which in this case is a fine Buttercup Chardonnay. Our hero, having won some precious treasure or reward, now returns to the ordinary world to share the spoils of battle. This being a comedy and a romance and a swashbuckling adventure fully ties up all the threads. This is not a French cinema ending. This is a perfect 1940s Hollywood ending. After being shamed and bullied by Vizzini and defeated in battle by Wesley, Fezzik has, quote, finally done something right, according to Inigo, when he finds 4 white horses for the party to ride away on. Inigo's elixir is vengeance for his father. And he says, now that it's over, I don't know what to do with the rest of my life. And Wesley asks if he's ever considered piracy, which is a callback to his story to Buttercup about how he became the Dread Pirate Roberts. Yep. How much would you pay to see Princess Bride 2 Inigo as the Dread Pirate Roberts? This man with such a code and such, he's so lawful good.
Yeah, well...
Maybe chaotic good?
He's chaotic good.
Yeah,
I mean, he is a mercenary.
Yeah.
So...
But that's a great sequel possibility. What's Mandy Patinkin got going on? Chicago Hope's over. What are you doing, dude? Besides your opera career, and what an incredibly talented man he is.
Is he a singer?
Oh, yeah.
I've never heard him sing.
I don't know if he's an opera singer, but he's released albums. I mean, the guy is...
Really?
Yeah, he's a legitimate dude. The guy has talent dripping out of his ears. So that's Inigo. And then Wesley and Buttercup are reunited. Mm-hmm. Their elixir is...
Wow. And Grandson's elixir is full appreciation of the story and asking Grandpa to come back and read the story again tomorrow.
Hey, I never got to my Fred Savage story. We'll put it in the tidbits. We'll put my...
No?
We're not putting it in the tidbits?
That's fine. We can put it in the tidbits.
Oh, wow. All right.
Today on Jeff Garvin Actor Moments.
I'm so desperate for you to appreciate my career, my short-lived career as an actor. Love me!
All right, so I think that's it for this episode.
Yeah.
What are we covering next?
Our patrons have tied for Cinco de Mayo and Mother's Day.
Which surprises me. That is a surprise.
So for Mother's Day, we were going to do movies that involve moms on some level.
Yeah.
And for Cinco de Mayo, it was movies that were made in Mexico or by Mexican directors.
Right.
Dan and I also matched on Deal or Ordeal. So we have two things. So
we have two ties to break.
We have, because we are D&D geeks, we both have a D20, a 20-sided die in our hands.
Yep.
I'm going to roll to decide Mother's Day versus Cinco de Mayo, and then Dan will decide whether he or I chooses the movie. So from 1 to 10, it will be Mother's Day.
Okay.
11 to 20, Cinco de Mayo.
Okay.
It's a 6, so it's Mother's Day. Oh, boy.
All right, so we have to... whoever wins the next roll
picks a Mother's Day
has
movie.
to pick a movie that's centered around mothers in some way.
Yes.
All right. So I also have a D20. So I say we both roll a D20, and whoever rolls higher wins.
Ooh, I love it.
3.
I rolled a 10.
Okay.
Bad moms. Bad moms.
Bad moms?
Yep.
All right. Bad Moms, another comedy.
I love it.
We're doing 2 comedies in a row. All right, so that is it for this episode. Join us next month when we celebrate Mother's Day with Bad Moms.
Yes!
If you'd like to earn the right to vote on our next episode, check out patreon.com/heroesjourney.
If you like what you heard, please subscribe on iTunes or wherever you get you... We're leaving that in.
That's staying in.
If you like what you heard, please subscribe on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. tell your friends. Tell your friends about this podcast. Tweet about it. And please give us a 5-star rating on iTunes.
If this show inspires you, informs you, or even just makes you laugh, go to patreon.com/heroesjourney and learn how you can support the show and get some cool free stuff.
The Hero's Journey is produced by Jeff Garvin, that's me, and Dan Zarzana, with original music by Taylor Jordan. Thanks to Dean Ethington for for designing our logo and being our demigod patron. And thank you, Buttercup Winery, for this delicious 2017 Buttercup Chardonnay.
The Princess Bride is copyright 1987, The Princess Bride Limited.
Stop what you're doing right now. Whip out your phone and follow us on Twitter at Heroes Podcast. We promise not to reinforce the political echo chamber that you're in, but instead bring you insightful storytelling tidbits. Or you can like us at facebook.com/Heroes Journey Podcast and check out our show notes, including links to what we're reading, watching, playing, and drinking at heroesjourneypodcast.com.
Until next time.
Journey on!
What?
I don't, there's no R's.